Liberty in our lifetimes in a free state of our own. That's the vision. That's the dream. And we are building it in New Hampshire. I'm Eric Brakey, your host and renegade statesman for the Porcupine Report. Welcome to your source for porcupine news and free-range conversation on matters of liberty. All right, let's hop into the show. Hello and welcome to episode 28 of the Porcupine Report. I am, as always, your host, your renegade statesman, your executive director of the Free State Project, Eric Brakey. Thank you for joining me tonight on a special live episode of the Porcupine Report. We haven't done a live episode before, and I'll be honest, this isn't some grand master plan. Usually we record these episodes ahead of time and release them every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. But this week went a little unplanned in some respects. First, I'll tell you, of course, I was so glad to be able to fly down this weekend to Orlando, Florida for the 15th Young Americans for Liberty convention. And I had an opportunity to be on the main stage alongside great speakers like Comic Dave Smith and Kennedy and Vivek Ramaswamy, Dr. Ron Paul, a lot of great headliners. And I was grateful to be on the same stage as them. And I will say also, I was a little, I will brag a little bit. One night, on the last night of YALCON, there was karaoke night. And hosted by Kennedy, who is the MC. Kennedy, who you may know from her time at Fox Business, but she also was in her day on MTV, and that's where she got started, on MTV. Well, she said my karaoke rendition of Space Oddity by David Bowie was the best song of the night. So some bragging rights there, I will claim. But really, it was a real pleasure to be at YALCON, to connect with so many of the young people in our liberty movement, so many people in their early 20s who are out there making a difference, knocking doors, electing liberty legislators across the country, including right here in what Young Americans for Liberty is calling their emerging lighthouse states here in the state of New Hampshire. So it was a real pleasure. And my remarks from the main stage at YALCON, I will be making available in the near future. Check them out on our social media pages. I'll probably be posting that in the next couple of days. I will say, while I was so happy to spend 3 days down there at YALCON, I was not planning on the 3 extra days that I got stuck in Florida. Actually, flew from Orlando to Miami only to find that my flight out of Miami was canceled due to the tropical storm that was going through the area. So I got stuck there for 3 extra nights. There was still plenty of work to do that I could do down there, but I do want to say a special thank you to Hector and Joshua, and also Hector's wife, libertarians down in Miami, who took me out for dinner the first night, heard I was down there, and made the most of it. We had a great time, and our next guest on the show, who I'll be introducing shortly, will be very happy to hear that while we were having dinner, I did tell all 3 of them about the benefits of New Hampshire, the concentration strategy that we're doing here in the Free State, and invited them to come up to some of our events, and maybe even, I know that for some people in Florida, they love the Florida winters, but it's okay. You can be a snowbird and you can travel back and forth from the second freest state in America to the number 1 freest state in America, New Hampshire. So anyway, we had a great conversation about that, and I want to say thank you to them both. I hope that next time we're having dinner, I'm treating them to dinner up here in New Hampshire. All right, and before we get to our guest, I do also want to promote that coming up on September 1st, we are having here in the Free State the Free State Blockchain Digital Asset Conference. This is being held in Durham, New Hampshire. It's being hosted by Bruce Fenton. And this is an event that's gone on for many years in New Hampshire. Of course, New Hampshire is one of the cradles. Well, it is the cradle of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And so this conference every year is an opportunity for great minds to come together and discuss a lot of the topics around digital assets in this country. So if that's something you're interested in, please come and join us September 1st in Durham, New Hampshire. You can register for the Free State Blockchain Digital Asset Conference at blockchainnh.com. That's blockchainnh.com. And we'll see you there. I know they've asked me to deliver some remarks, and I'm looking forward to it. So hope to see you there. All right. That's the intro for the show. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. So I am so happy to welcome back. This is going to be the first time we have a guest who has made a second appearance on the Porcupine Report. It's been maybe a month or two since we had him on. But if you don't remember, Dennis Pratt. So Dennis Pratt is, many people regard him as one of the great thinkers. Maybe if I were to, not to give him too big of an ego, if I could ascribe the word philosophers of the Free State, Dennis is. He is one of the co-founders of the Shell, one of the clubhouse here in the Free Coast area of New Hampshire. He is also the owner of the Independence Inn, where people come from across the country to stay while they're visiting the Free State. It's centrally located, as a great place you can stay the night and go visit and explore different communities in New Hampshire. And he also served 3 times as the producer for the Porcupine Freedom Festival. He reinvented aspects of it, including really launching the hub model, in which people are creating their own events at PorcFest, and that continues on to this day. But now he's taking on a new challenge, and I've really been appreciative of him stepping up to the plate on this to be the lead producer on next year's New Hampshire Liberty Forum, which we're taking in a slightly different direction, doing some interesting things with, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about tonight. So let's welcome to the show, Dennis Pratt. Dennis, I hope I didn't give you too big a head there.
The thing I'm most nervous about is that you're taking Carol and Mai's song, Ground Control to Major Tom. Yeah, we have a lot of karaoke out here in the Free State. That's the song. That's one of the songs that Carol always wants me to sing with her. So we'll have to have dueling Major Toms.
We'll have to see. I do like it because it's one that I don't know that you have to be a great singer for that song. But it helps if you're like a good if you can put yourself into it. And I find that the songs that you can act your way through, I tend to do better than the songs you've got to like belt and anyway, I'm not a classically trained singer, but I am a classically trained actor. So if I can fake my way through it, it's great.
I'm going to be left with the song Tequila, just screaming out tequila from now on.
All right. Well, we'll see. I'll look forward to some Liberty karaoke in the Free Coast at some point. And by the way, I did just the other day, I finally signed up for my first clubhouse membership in New Hampshire. I signed up for a membership at the Shell. I'm going to sign up for memberships at the other clubhouses in New Hampshire as well, but the Shell is the one that is closest to my new home in Dover, New Hampshire. So I figured I would start there. And thank you for all that you've done helping to build that up and so many projects here in New Hampshire.
Yeah, we're going to have an opening of a new clubhouse very soon that you can sign up for anew. I mean, you're going to be doing a lot of signing up pretty soon.
Oh, I guess so. I didn't know about this new clubhouse. Is this is a newly named clubhouse, or this is a clubhouse that's moving to a new area?
It's a brand new clubhouse up in the North Country.
Oh,
very excited. I think it's going to get its first exercise next weekend. Carol and I are trying to figure out how to get up there for its soft opening.
Was this connected at all to like the Freedom Palooza that happened this past
Well,
week?
it's the same crowd. Awesome people. Yeah, we were just up there enjoying Freedom Palooza, the first annual, with Carol was playing her viola or her violin actually for the first time. And bands and singers, and it was a lot of fun. We'll see. The second annual will be. That's always the challenge. It's easy to do the first.
Yeah, well, I will say, obviously, I was down in Orlando, so I wasn't there for it. But I heard good things, and hopefully, I'll be there for the second annual Freedom Palooza. And nice to hear that another clubhouse is opening up north. I haven't had too much opportunity to get all the way up there, other than. Well, I don't know. I'm still learning the geography of New Hampshire. You gotta forgive me, Dennis. I don't know how far up north is considered North Country. Like if you go up to Rogers Campground, you're not in North Country yet, are you?
Yes, you are, and this
Okay.
is even further north. So
Okay.
this is pretty far up north. So,
Okay. All right. All
but
right.
it's a great group. I mean, I love all the different regions and all the different groups out here, and it's just so much fun visiting the different folks.
Yeah. Well, I've been having a lot of that fun this last year as I'm trying to get to know everyone. It's been a little bit like drinking from a fire hose, but I'm up for it and I love it. And people have given such a warm welcome and a lot of great good feedback along the way too. So, I think that's one of the great things about the Free State movement is that all of us are smarter than one of us, and there's a lot of great ideas, and nobody has to wait around asking for permission to go out and build something. So, uh, and speaking of not asking for permission to go out and build something, we're building something new this year, or at least building upon something old with some new concepts, which is, of course, the New Hampshire Liberty Forum, which has a long history going back. I don't actually know when the first New Hampshire Liberty Forum was, but I know it was one of my first events getting introduced to the Free
Yeah.
State movement over a decade ago, and it has been very successful, but also I think in some ways over the years has struggled a little bit to find its own individual identity in the context of all of the other kind of freedom and liberty festivals that take place around the country. Pork Fest is already something that's very unique in the overall kind of ecosystem of liberty festivals and liberty events around the country. But the New Hampshire Liberty Forum has been very successful in its own right, but also it has been harder to kind of carve out its own identity and things. And you had a great idea, Dennis, that we're running with, and so that's why you're on today. Let's talk about what we're doing with Liberty Forum in 2025.
Yeah, it's it's funny because when I first arrived here, Liberty Forum was one of was I think the second organization I came in and I said, "Hey, I think I can alter this a bit," and they sent me packing as well as the first, second, and third. Finally, Pork Fest finally found a use for me. But the
Well, Dennis,
I,
you can be tough to love. I get it.
the I have a taxonomy of about 25 different strategies to get to a liberty society, and 24 of them, you know we like to be generous, but then also we can say, they're not showing as much promise as people would like. New Hampshire, it lives in that one group is called concentration strategies, where we're trying to actually carve out a small region and create liberty for real in that small region. And that's actually shown remarkable success. I think New Hampshire's the most successful in the most successful category for creating liberty for real. But there are other groups that are trying liberty for real societies. And so, my thinking here is that really New Hampshire being that premier liberty for real society concentration strategy, that really what we should be doing is focusing on that. New Hampshire Liberty Forum has been kind of competing with other liberty forums and liberty conferences and stuff, and I think they do a great job. But there's so much. There's 24 other strategy areas that focus on trying to appeal to DC or to election strategies and things like that, where given that we are actually a concentration strategy, I think we ought to be concentrating on concentration strategies. So the idea here is that Porkfest and Liberty Forum will both be focused very, very carefully on concentration strategies. Porkfest will be focusing on people who want to experience what living in a liberty for real society might actually look like. The thing that we're actually creating here. Porkfest is a 1 week simulation of that, and you come here and you try to say, I've lived in all my life in the authoritarian 49. what would it really be like to live in a liberty society? And of course, it's a pale a projection of what it is, and it's, my intention actually is that New Hampshire will so soon become that type of liberty for real society that you just come to New Hampshire and you're actually immersed in it. We're doing porcupine vacations around that idea. You come for a week and you're immersed in the liberty for real society that we're creating and we have here so far. But the question then becomes, for what is New Hampshire Liberty Forum? Well, New Hampshire Liberty Forum is going to be for the thinkers, the planners, the visionaries, the people who are thinking about how do you actually create these liberty for real societies. And this first ever conference that brings together all the different liberty for real societies is going to be looking at, where are they now? What are the current obstacles? And we're going to be brainstorming together ways to get around the solution spaces, and what are the big solution ideas for how to get around these obstacles to get all these different liberty societies to that next level. And I think that this conference being in New Hampshire is perfect. We need to focus on creating these liberty for real societies. And if it's not going to be in New Hampshire, I don't know where else it would be, because this is the number one liberty for real society. And so we're going to be inviting all thinkers from different think tanks. We're inviting doers and practitioners out there who are really struggling with these issues. And then we're inviting people who just like to be problem solvers and thinkers. So what I've been telling people is that, if you're kind of that person who likes to think really hard and, how can we solve problems? And you're really excited about creating a liberty for real society, New Hampshire Liberty Forum is the conference for you. That's where we're going to be rolling up our sleeves and thinking about all of the different problems and how we can get around those and how we can take these things just to the next step. And then if you're also, and if you're somebody who, certainly if you're still in that set, that's good. But also if you're kind of somebody who they just kind of want to enjoy it or they want to support it, but they're not going to be, carving out whole new areas and really doing the planning. PorcFest is an ideal location for you. You can come and experience what this thing is. So it's a kind of a 1-2 punch. It's the thinkers, the builders, the planners for New Hampshire Liberty Forum. That's going to be Thursday, April 24th through Sunday, April 27th. And then come out for PorcFest and experience this. And of course, you can come out any week and enjoy a porcupine vacation.
Well, one of the things I love about this is that not only are people going to be able to submit their own kind of ideas for, and I think, as you've stated, Dennis, right, it's got to be an actual practical challenge that we observe, or we expect to encounter as we're transitioning to free society, as we're trying to establish a free society, an actual real roadblock and ideas for how we overcome that roadblock. I know I've been talking with you, Dennis, kind of offline, just you and me, about an idea that I have for putting something forward. I remember years back at PorcFest, I presented on a legislative idea that I've had, which I did put in as a bill around tax nullification in the state of Maine. So I kind of created a model legislation, but the practical challenge that this is seeking to overcome is, I think, one thing that we observe, and certainly I observe this as someone who's been a liberty legislator off and on for the last decade, is that states get addicted to federal money. Mm-hmm. And it becomes hard for states to say, we're not going to adopt your unconstitutional mandates and policies because the federal government will steal our money and ransom it back to us with strings attached. Oh, you want your highway funds, huh? Well, you better have a mandatory seatbelt law for adults, which I get is a somewhat frivolous thing. But I love the fact that New Hampshire is the only state that's told the federal government, no, keep that money. We're not going to click it or ticket just because you command us. So, um, but but while that might be a frivolous example, somewhat frivolous, it's not that it still gives them pretext stops and all that. It's can be bigger problems. Anyway, I won't go on about seatbelts, but so many other things where we get ransomed into Medicaid expansion, expanding socialized health care, all of these other things, the drinking age, whatever your thing. There's so many things that are tied to federal funding where they take our money, they ransom it back to us with strings attached. So that's the practical obstacle. And the idea for getting beyond it is forms of tax nullification, which I won't go into all the ins and outs of. I'll save that for Liberty Forum. But that's that's for folks who are interested in presenting. Those are the kinds of things we're looking for: a practical obstacle and an idea for overcoming it. And then folks will present on that, of course, and they will have, and people who are attending will have the opportunity to be in dialogue with folks about those ideas and to have bigger conversations. So I'm very excited for it, Dennis.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for that particular paper. I think a lot of these ideas are really exciting. Somebody said, "Hey, I can't imagine what obstacles you're talking about." I go, but you live in New Hampshire. You certainly know what obstacles we're facing, and all of these Liberty for Real societies are facing. And so I created a little brainstorm of, and I don't know how many there are. There must be like 50 or so possible topics that people might be interested in writing about. And the suggestions that we've gotten from people who want to present actually aren't included in here, which there are so many obstacles that we face to escape 6,000 years of slavery to rulers that the people we're looking for are people who can say, I see this as being a big problem. How do we get around this? And I'm excited to kind of tackle that. And once you tackle it, what we're asking for is, we talk about a paper, right? We talk about you doing a paper, but the paper could be just your presentation, right? But being nerds, I'm expecting a little bit more than your presentation. So, stuff that you might not be able to handle in the 50-minute presentation, which is really about 35 minutes of substance. You have warm up, and then you have question and answer at the end. But the other thing is the paper is going to be published in this first ever conference book, Emerging Liberty for Real Societies, Volume 1. And that's going to be something that I'm hoping that we just kind of continue on, and people will be referencing that paper. The VIP people will get the conference book before the conference starts, but you can certainly pick it up with a regular ticket as well. And then when you come out of your presentation, you're going to be doing 2 roundtables, and that's going to be signups of people who really are interested, excited about the area that you're interested in, and they come together, and you come in and you have kind of a brainstorming session and talking and chatting and sharing ideas. And then also as a presenter, you lead tables at dinner where people again are signing up because they want to talk to you about this area, or they have a similar idea or a similar problem that they want to talk about. So this is really a working conference for people who are serious about creating liberty for real societies. This isn't LARPing, right? These are the people who are really doing the liberty for real societies, really hitting major obstacles and saying, how can we get around these? Now, most conferences are talking about, some sort of DC thing and some sort of a small amelioration within an overall authoritarian society. Or they're talking about kind of pie in the sky. Well, of course, when in the future there's some sort of fiction. This is road meets tire. This is where we are right now, and what are the what are the obstacles that we're facing? And I love your illustration. I highlighted some of the illustrations, but I actually just recommend that you go to nhlibertyforum.com, nhlibertyforum.com. And under speakers, there's some like illustrative talks, and just kind of look through those and think, okay, what are the obstacles that I'm excited about exploring or thinking through? You don't have to actually live in one of the Liberty for Real societies. It may be that you're thinking about one of these areas. This could be a legal concerns or different segments. And how do you have a liberty society when you still have left versus right, for example? That was one of the topics I suggested. Building communities. How the diffusion for various innovations, the diffusion of that society, migration control. Whom do you want in? Whom do you want out? How do you remove authoritarians who are really being disruptive? What types of businesses come in? What type of governance? I mean, do you really want a democracy that can turn into just mob rule again? We talk about covenant communities. What is an archetype of a covenant community constitution? What might that look like? So how do you increase? So New Hampshire is the number one crypto in the U.S. Place for crypto. We also have silver that we trade. We trade gold, and we also trade gold backs. But one of the obstacles that we're facing right now is diffusion of that into the businesses. So, maybe that's an area that you're interested in. How can you accelerate the diffusion of these types of alternative currencies, given that where we know fiat is going? Children and families. It's interesting. Two of the suggested papers that have come in already have to do with sex in the society, the category of sex in the society, both in terms of attracting women and one on prostitution, which I think will be very, very well attended. Both of these will be very well attended talks. But, you talked about nullification, and I think this is just a gigantic question of which laws do we start with? And we're battling that right now, even with our nullification caucus here. And how do you nullify these things, and how do you get around these problems? So I invite people to go to the website nhlibertyforum.com and look at the illustrative talks, look at why you might want to present, and certainly if you're not going to present, why you want to go to this thing. If you're at all a problem solver or a thinker, you want to be at this conference. This is not we're not LARPing, we're not grifting, this isn't pie in the sky. This is real creation of real liberty for real people. So let's work on these real obstacles with real solutions.
And I will say too, I'm excited. Mostly I'm excited about the ideas that we're going to be talking about. I'm looking forward to seeing what people bring forward for presentations. I am also excited. We're going to be in a new venue that we haven't used before, the Grapponi Conference Center in Concord, New Hampshire, which is the state capital. And for those who aren't familiar with New Hampshire, because certainly we do encourage and we want people to come in from all around the country, all around the world, to engage in these conversations. But it's what is it? Less than an hour away from the Manchester airport. Not too long a drive at all. If you're flying in. So it's an accessible location, a great space for productive dialogue. And Dennis, let me ask you, if someone were to submit a paper, what's the evaluation process like? I know there's a limited number of slots for people to have their ideas accepted to be presented on. Who's making those decisions? What's that evaluation process going to look like?
Yeah. So what I recommend doing is, before you go whole hog, is just write us under speakers. You'll see that there's a category called submit your presentation idea. And, that's just a rough idea. I want to kind of talk about this and here's my thinking. I spent an hour and a half with somebody who is really excited about a paper about increasing security. Now, he's used to talking in the general conferences about the ultimate security solution. Well, the problem that we have here in the Free State is we have people at different levels of security, and how do we actually start moving to a more secure in our papers society, especially given that we may well be a target. So, I mean, it's a gigantic problem. It's a gigantic obstacle. And so I worked with him about, what would be something that would be really helpful to take the Liberty Societies and start moving them to the next step, right? Not to the ultimate step, right? I mean, he's got ideas for hardware and software and applications and all the operating systems. He's got all of that. But, where we are and the types of things that we're doing, how do we get to the next step? And so what he's going to be doing is he's doing his paper. We evolved it to looking at various archetypes in the Free State, in a Liberty for Real society. What applications are they currently using, and how these different archetypes can slowly start moving over to greater security, and by that have different speeds and different pathways, but start actually creating greater security within the society. And that's something that hasn't been done. And I'm very excited about that paper. But we'll work with you. We do have a number of people who are excited about helping. They include myself and Eric, for sure. But I think that you should be definitely utilizing us. Jason Sorens, Matthew Barney, who's coming in from kind of more of a psychology and AI perspective. We have economists, and other people whom I'm not going to announce right yet, but let's just say that that they can actually add a lot of value. Our hope, what we want to do is have the most exciting topics that people, that we're not talking pie in the sky, and we're not talking DC. We're talking about really advancing real liberty societies, and so that's what we want. We want to help you, and so get in your ideas as soon as possible, and we will help guide you. And then I think this conference book is going to be a really, it's offered at the conference, but I think it's going to be something that will be valuable, outside the conference. And certainly, you get your paper in this year. This will probably be the easiest year to get your paper in. And then next year, everyone's referencing your paper. Not only are you published, but now everyone's referencing it, and kind of taking it to the next step.
It's not only a great opportunity, I think, for folks who are kind of established at think tanks or kind of already kind of academically established, which of course we encourage those folks. I had great conversations with, when I was at Young Americans for Liberty, with some of the folks from the Cato Institute. I know some people give them a bad rap, but there are some great people who work at the Cato Institute, and we'd love to have anyone involved who is thinking through these issues, and not just wanting to propose ideas for, what Washington, D.C. should do to give us our liberties back, because we know that's like waiting for Godot. You're going to be, you can publish all the papers you want on that. It ain't happening. But here in New Hampshire, and there are, of course, other experiments around the world. There's people attempting free cities, the free, I'm sure we're going to be talking with the folks involved in those groups. I know that there have been like efforts around seasteading and stuff in the past. There are a lot of different ideas out there for how you get to a liberty for real society. Of course, I think you and I are both very biased on which one is the most effective. And I believe that certainly the results speak for themselves there. But it's also a great opportunity for, if you're a young person, a college student, maybe you're a particularly astute undergraduate student, or you're achieving a higher level degree and you'd like to be published. This is a great opportunity for that, to get your idea published in a and a real publication, and to be able to present your idea and get some really great, earnest, and good faith feedback from people on your idea.
Yeah, and I think that this touches so many different areas. Areas. Of course, there's people think, well, it's just economics or monetary or legal but it's also social and cultural. It's psychological. I could see papers coming in on psychology.
How do you overcome when your free society movement, whatever you call it, maybe like a free state movement or something like that? What happens when it grows so big that there are so many communities and tribes with people with competing visions and infighting and all of that? How do you overcome that? That is a certain symptom of a lot of success. Those are great, I guess, sociological questions that could be asked.
Yeah, sociological. I mean, family and children, just gigantic issues. I mean, we're already working on these issues and we're already making, significant progress. But what we're looking for are, people. We need to apply the brain power. So much libertarians are probably the smartest group out there, but they're all focused on doing something that will not get done, which is reforming DC. We're not going to reform DC, folks. And so what I'd like to do is focus that brain power on something that we can do. And that is creating these small enclaves of liberty for real societies. And whether that's on the ocean or whether that's in Europe or in Prospera or it's a small town. We're doing now a Freetown project.
Whatever it is.
I would love to actually get, people that brain power to start saying, here's how we can get around these problems. Here's what we do. And you come to this thing and you're going to be inspired. You're going to be excited. And there might be something that you go, I'm dedicating more of my lifespan to this problem or this area, or I'm moving over here to help these people. And I would love to see that. I would love this not just to be a working session, not just, it's certainly not just a presentation, right? This is hey, we're suffering from this problem. These are the possible solutions. This is my best guess. Now we're gonna workshop it to death, right? And now what I'd love is that this rolls out into a year of much greater activity, much greater acceleration on what we actually have to be doing, which is creating liberty for real. Not talking about it, not bitching that we don't have it, but actually creating it.
Oftentimes I think that there's like this false dichotomy between pragmatism and idealism, and I think we see this a lot in kind of libertarian circles of particularly the people who are the pure idealists, who anything that falls short of utopia is like not really libertarian. And you want to lower taxes by 10%. Well, why aren't you abolishing all my taxes? You're a statist, you person. Anyway, we experience that a lot. But I always think, the interesting conversation between idealism and pragmatism is the transition from where we are to where we want to go. And not just have kind of our pie in the sky ideal vision for what the society is we'd like to live in, but how do we practically get there? And so I don't know of any conferences quite like this that we're going to be having next year. And I will say one thing about the New Hampshire Liberty Forum next year, which is going to be different than years past, is the timing. In past years, we've done it in February, we've done it in March. These tend to be colder months of the year. Sometimes in February, people say, "What are you doing? Why are you scheduling this in the middle of winter in New Hampshire? Don't you want to showcase the best times of the year?" I've heard the justification is
skiing.
People say, well, we want you to see that if you can handle New Hampshire in February, you've seen the worst that it has to throw at you. So, you should just come and live here. I don't know in practice if that has actually worked or not. But anyway, we're doing it in late April. So it's going to be a beautiful time in spring to come and see New Hampshire, and of course, come up to Concord, the Grapponi Conference Center. One thing I love too is, while the meat and potatoes are happening at the conference center there, we are also planning, and you've mentioned this, kind of excursions to restaurants in the city where, depending on the topic and the conversation you want to engage in with speakers, you can, if you want to talk about my idea for tax nullification to get our financial sovereignty back from the federal government, then maybe we're going to go to the pizza joint, a block away, and we'll go have pizza and talk about that. But if you want to talk about, I don't know, how to increase, how we transition to a state of more cybersecurity for people who love liberty, to get away from kind of the surveillance state, then maybe you're going to the Italian place a block away. Anyway, an opportunity not just to kind of gather in the conference center, which is all nice, a kind of a controlled environment, but to actually also get a real taste of what some of the areas around us are and what New Hampshire has to hold.
Yeah. Yeah, I particularly like the Grapponi Center. The lodging for out-of-staters, and we are especially excited about welcoming our out-of-staters, is right next door. And it has a bar area. It has an outdoor space with those table heaters and stuff. So you can be at the bar and be at the outdoor space, but also VIP holders. And if you're presenting, you are instantly a VIP. But also our sponsors and other people will be VIPs. We're going to have the VIP right next door. And so, if you're a VIP, you can be in there and talking, there's so many different opportunities for idea generation and sharing ideas and coming up with different things and making plans for next steps here. I think this is just going to be just a great opportunity for taking things to the next step. This is not going to be a conference that you just go to and you listen to at boring talks. This is real problems, real suggested solutions, and then real roll up our sleeves and let's work this out. And now, what are you going to do? What are you going to do next week? What are you going to do the week after? What are you going to do the next month in order to advance this? So this is intended to be something that really supports libertarians who want to create liberty for real societies. It supports the liberty for real societies, and it supports people who are the thinkers and planners and visionaries, the doers, the practitioners, but the people who want to explore better ideas for faster diffusion, ideas for better solutions.
Well, Dennis, I'm trying to think about anything left that we haven't covered already. I think it's been pretty exhaustive. We've covered how people submit their ideas for how to for presentations. We've covered how people get their tickets, which they can do at nhlibertyforum.com, and they can also submit their ideas there. We will be having a room block of hotel rooms available. So at a certain point, people will be able to book their rooms and get a discounted rate there. And it's a real great opportunity and I think an exciting kind of new experiment for the New Hampshire Liberty Forum. Is there anything we haven't covered yet that we should make sure to get out today that I'm not thinking of?
Well, we have two different levels of tickets. The regular tickets, it gets you to the conference and the talks and that type of thing. VIP tickets, we really loaded up the VIP tickets. So you get a choice. You get first choice in terms of what roundtable discussions you're going to go to, which dinners you're going to go to. We do have a VIP keynote speaker on Saturday that you go automatically into. The conference book you can buy at the conference, but of course VIP holders, they get the conference book. So it's you definitely get high priority. You get the VIP room where you can talk to people. So in the past, I think we've had a VIP designation for people who really want to just support the Free State. Which, thank you for supporting us. We need the support. But there is a big difference between the regular ticket and the VIP ticket. I still think that you should be coming even for regular tickets. You'll still be able to talk to people because we have so many opportunities for talking with people. The other areas that we want to talk about is just, if you're an exhibitor, if you're interested in supporting libertarians in the various stages of creating liberty for real, become an exhibitor. And we have, two levels of exhibition there. And then we're always looking for sponsors. Our big, the people who really can kind of help us majorly. If you sponsor us, you'll get your page actually in that conference book with your logo on our site and logo in there. You'll also, sponsors also get to choose where they set up their exhibit tables, and if they're doing presentations, which I would expect some sponsors would, they get their choice of slot. So I invite people to support this. It's not a lot of people who go to this. And what we're looking for are the people who are really big problem solvers. And so given that it's kind of an intimate conference, it's hard to actually make the money back. And we're a 501c3, so we do have regular tickets. If everyone bought regular tickets, we wouldn't probably make our money back, and everyone would be complaining about this to me. So VIP tickets, exhibits. We have lots of exhibits, tables, and places where you can be talking to people. You do get some roundtable discussions as well with those. And then sponsorships. Please, please, please come and help us. We want to become the center for liberty for real. And that is, certainly here. But, we're helping towns in the authoritarian 49. We have a free town project that we're helping people create smaller microcosms of the concentration strategy, and we want to network with all the different liberty for real societies, because one of these New Hampshire might not work out, so we may be beating a retreat to one of these. We need additional brands in the fire, and of course, New Hampshire is always available to everyone. So
yeah,
I'm
pretty optimistic on New Hampshire, but you always it is good to have it's funny. I was just dealing with this on social media today. I guess someone, we have such passionate people in the Free State movement, and sometimes I think people can be a little too passionate in one regard, in that it's like anyone who's doing anything for liberty that isn't moving to New Hampshire is like worthless. You're dead to me. It's like, so I saw some guy, God bless his heart, he was going at Spike Cohen over something, that if he wasn't moving to New Hampshire, he wasn't a real libertarian or something like that. And Spike is a friend of the show. We were glad to have him at Pork Fest. He's going to be coming back, and we're building strong ties with him and so many other people doing great things in the liberty movement. But I'd love if Spike brought his You Are the Power organization to New Hampshire and was right here in the Free State with us. But I also recognize that not every single libertarian in the world is going to move to New Hampshire. We encourage as many as possible who want to be a part of building a real free society and being in community with people who are doing that. But there's also other ways to advance liberty. Like, look, I personally prefer that Javier Milei is president of Argentina versus like giving that up and moving to New Hampshire. I think there's good work for him to do there. There are ways to do it, but we do want to be a center. We want to be a hub for all of this conversation right here happening in the homeland of liberty, in the Free State of New Hampshire. And of course, we hope that those who are coming out for this hub of discourse are going to realize how nice New Hampshire is, how great the community here is. And maybe they were just planning to come out for a conference, but they get a little taste of what a real free society can be like. And they decide they were only coming for a weekend, but they end up staying for a lifetime. That would be nice.
Well, it's hard. It's hard to create a liberty society with authoritarians. You know, it's just one of those things that you go, I think you don't have the necessary ingredients. I wrote a large paper on Somalia, you know, because everyone says, well, you know, if you're a libertarian, you should just move to Somalia because they don't have a government. And you know, it's like they're all authoritarians.
No, I am told by some
How do
studies.
you create a liberty society with
Yeah,
authoritarians, you know?
yeah.
So
I
I had 5 different reasons for why Somalia isn't a libertarian utopia, and the first one was there's no libertarians there.
so I am I was hearing, I don't remember who it was, someone saying a few years back that Somalia did actually, it was starting in a very bad place, and once they no longer had a government, it got marginally less bad. So, you know, I don't know. However, he was measuring that. So anyway, not it's no libertarian utopia, but by any stretch of the imagination. But were they improved without a state? Some argue that it was slightly improved.
Yeah, yeah. But I just think that the concentration strategy is just such an excellent strategy. You know, of the 25 different strategies that I document in my taxonomy, yeah, I think I've hit almost all of them at one point in my 43 year attempts to try to find liberty. You know, concentration strategy is like the first one that you know, it kind of is like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. You know, if you want a gay city, you have to have gays there. You can't just declare, oh, we're all gay, we'll have a gay city here. No, you know, if you want a Mormon state, you need Mormons there. If you want a Jewish country, you need Jews there. So I just think it makes a lot of sense, and then the progress that we've had here is undeniable. I mean, it's just so exciting. You know, it's fun to not to have people around you who love liberty as much as you do. That's a lot of fun. But and our social circles and our social events, our communities, our networking, the parallel institutions that we're creating. These are all exciting things, but also just the burgeoning liberty, where in front after front after front. There's a lot of fronts, but in front after front after front, we are pushing back the enslavement of humanity, at least here in New Hampshire. Now, a lot of people says, well, you know, you can be the beacon for the rest of the world. The question is whether the rest of the world will turn libertarian, because our secret ingredient is lots of libertarians.
Well, you know, I do think there's something to be said for, you know, if you do set a real example of what the benefits of a real free society, if you can achieve that, if you are that beacon, right? Maybe others will become libertarians because they see how well it works out. Maybe there is something to be said by leading by example, but it is kind of a struggle to think just a pure education model that we're going to convince everyone of the greatness of our ideas without a real life model or example to point to. I mean, we run up into this all the time. People say, "Oh, if libertarianism is such a great idea, point out to a real society where it's been fully tried." It's kind of like asking, like, you know, if the mafia is so bad, why don't they voluntarily give up power? Right? It's like, well, for obvious reasons, there's some incentive problems here. But you know, in our systems that in America that are based on kind of, at least our political systems are based on, to some degree, you know, democratic processes. What do you need to affect at least the political structures? Well, you need numbers, and a concentration strategy is a great way to do that. Not to mention the activists getting involved in all that. But even beyond the political change, yes, man, it is a breath of fresh air to be in a place where the communities are formed, and in some respects, when you have those communities, as I'm learning, as Dennis, as you've been teaching me quite a bit too, like even when things aren't so great as far as the politics and the policies. So, for example, Governor Sununu did lock down the state of New Hampshire during COVID, but the people of the Free State movement were not isolated and alone. It was kind of like, all right, you take your mandate and shove it. But I know so many people in Maine who were, even if they didn't believe in all of this COVID nonsense, were still nonetheless isolated and alone because they were in communities where their friends and their family shunned them because they weren't, wearing hazmat suits and locked in their homes, or taking a vaccine that didn't do anything to stop the spread. Anyway, I see we're running towards the end of the clock, Dennis. I'm going to give you the last word, and then we'll close up for the evening.
So I invite you to go to nhlibertyforum.com. If you're somebody who likes to think about these things and aren't too shy about talking and presenting, I invite you to go through the illustrative talks and see if that sparks an idea for you. If you're in a Liberty for Real Society, please contact me. We want you to be talking about the obstacles you're facing, and to actually brainstorm and workshop those things, and to highlight where you are and where you're going. And if you're if you're a thinker in a think tank, and you have ideas that we're like, oh, here's what we could do way out in the future. Let's talk about how do you actually incorporate those to the next step, right? Because we're overcoming obstacles like this, right? Don't talk to us about way up here. Talk to us about how we can get to that next level. And then next year we can talk about the next level. And next year we can talk about the next level. But that's how we're going to win. We're going to win by chipping this thing away, and we're going to win by doing it together. And what New Hampshire Liberty Forum is going to do is it's going to bring the intelligence, the brilliance of Liberty people together, focused on what we should be focused on, not on reforming psychopaths. They don't reform, but on creating Liberty for Real societies. And that's us doing it together. And that's going to be April 24th through the 27th. Please come, pick up your tickets now. If you're at all interested in presenting, submit an idea. We'll contact you, and we will be off and running. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Looking forward to it, Dennis, and looking forward to all the great ideas that are going to come in. All right. Thank you, Dennis. And all right, everyone. So that's the show. Thank you so much for tuning in for this this rare live episode of the Porcupine Report. I certainly do hope that you will strongly consider applying to submit an idea, or even just grabbing a ticket and joining us for the New Hampshire Liberty Forum in April. It really is. It's an experiment, what we're doing. There's never been anything quite like this Liberty Forum next year. And so we'd really like it to be a success. And that, of course, depends on individuals like yourself contributing your ideas, or coming out and engaging in dialogue with those who are presenting their ideas. So I hope to see you in April. And again, as a reminder, if you're in the area or you want to come out for a conversation on crypto, the Free State Blockchain Digital Asset Conference is this September 1st in Durham, New Hampshire. You can register at blockchainnh.com, and I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you, as always, to the producer of our show, Raynita, for making everything run smoothly, especially on a live episode, which we didn't quite know how this was going to go, but it seems to have gone pretty well. And thank you all for tuning in. Please go ahead and like and subscribe and share and retweet, or whatever platform you're watching this on, whatever it makes sense, to leave a review or to share it with your friends and family to help spread the reach of the show. It makes a very big difference. And I've been getting good feedback as I go to events and meet people in person, meeting people who are watching the show. So thank you all for that. All right, everyone. I suppose that's it. That's all I got to say. Furthermore, my opinion is the Federal Reserve should be destroyed.